You're tuned into SEC Sunday Night, part of the Chief Sports Network.
All right, grab a drink and grab a snack. It is SEC Sunday Night Live on the Chief Sports Network. I'm Rob Williams. He is Craig McMichael, and we are proudly presented by Hewitt Damaduras Law, HDLawSC.com. We want to remind you that if you are in need, to call Brad and Dean. These guys are the best personal injury attorneys that we have in the state. They're proudly presenting our show every week. And they're big on relationships. They want to personally get to know you and help you. And you're not going to get that corporate lawyer in a box with these guys. They want to be involved with your story. So go to HDLawSC.com and talk to Brad and Dean. Hewitt Damaduras Law, HDLawSC.com. Craig, what a week. What a week in week 3. We got some stuff going on. Talk to me. Talk to me. What's going on?
Shout out to my guy, Gunner. Shout out to my guy, Gunner. He showed up, all you haters. All you haters, good luck. No, I think yesterday was one of the best game, as far as a slate of games. I feel like, I had my eyes on everything from about noon until 12:30. I got a little late night pizza, which was not bad. We had a little Detroit style pizza. You ever had Detroit style pizza, Rob?
I have not had to talk to me about it, Craig. Tell me about this Detroit style pizza that we're running.
It is a thick crust. It was so good. We did the Italian sausage. We did some green pepper. We had some nice Wisconsin brick cheese. It was absolutely perfect after a perfect day of SEC football. So, save your New York style thin crust. I'm sure Casey's going to be in here later talking about how great it is and everything else with it. Give me the Detroit style pizza. Let me know in the chat there. Have you had Detroit style pizza, and why is it the best pizza?
Okay, so I had pizza last night as well, and mine was a thick crust. I had pepperoni and sausage with a little green pepper, onions, and mushrooms. Are we rocking with this? Are we good?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I'm 100%. I'm
Is that working?
all about this. That is working. Yeah.
All right, perfect. Shout out to Michael over there in the chat also. We got a lot to say, Michael. We got a long way to go.
Michael, what's your favorite pizza?
Yeah, let us know. Let us know. Okay, Craig. Let's get into the news that matters. We got a couple of games to talk about here before we move forward. Before we get anybody in here, before we start doing anything crazy, let's talk about some games really quick. So you tell me winners and losers. Who's your biggest winner from yesterday and your biggest loser from yesterday? 5 major games I feel like we need to talk about. We don't have to get into the rest of the league. Michael says deep dish Chicago, just for the record. We don't have to get into
Lou Malnati's, right on State Street.
We don't have to get into kind of all the ins and outs necessarily of the other games. However, I'll steal one really quick. Oklahoma continues to rise and be impressive. And whether it's warranted or not, I think Alabama gets some eyeballs, and we're going to get to that in a little bit too, as Ryan Williams looks like he can kind of score at will against certain opponents. Power 4 opponent, Wisconsin, floundering a bit.
Certain opponents, and as long as they're at home. Let's talk when they actually go on the road.
Yeah, we'll get there. Don't worry about it. We're going to get there. But of the big 5 that we had kind of marquee matchups yesterday, you talk to me, winners and losers.
I'm going to start, and everyone's going to say, oh, you're biased. I'm going to say Georgia and Tennessee. That was a game that shows that those two teams are going to be in the conversation once again for the college football playoff. For once, I think we can, rest assured, Joey Aguilar is the deal for Tennessee. Yeah. I mean, he came out flying. Those one is 21-7. I'm like, okay, Tennessee's ready to go. But here's what I was most impressed with the Vols. The Vols have had a history of starting fast against Georgia. 5 straight years they have scored first. They went away. They lost the middle 8, as I read in the last word, as I read the recap of the game. But when Tennessee came back, I thought that to me was the most impressive. I think too often we've seen Tennessee kind of fall apart, kind of fade away in the second half. And to see that fight in the second half, I think was most impressive. Georgia continues to do Georgia things. Kirby Smart continues to show he doesn't need just 4 and 5 stars, but what he is going to do, he's going to relentlessly come at you, and it's going to be like this immovable force. So to me, Tennessee and Georgia have put themselves in the driver's seat for the SEC. Can I give you 2 more before I move on, or do you want me to kick it to you?
Let me steal it from you because I'm going to go here
All
too.
Right, go steal it.
I think specifically, what you're probably going to say is Ole Miss and Arkansas are winners here as well. Specifically, what I want to say is that Trinidad Chambliss is a big winner for me from yesterday. Austin.
Where did you go to school last year?
Yeah, Ferris State. And
D2 Ferris State. Shout out Big Rapids, Michigan, everybody.
I slept on it. I can't lie. Chambliss steps in for Austin Simmons, who's injured, and goes 21 for 29 for 353 and a touchdown, and took off 15 times and ran for 62 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. The final score shows 41-35. I think it was a little bigger of a gap than that, if we're being honest, as Arkansas has a late score. Taylon Green looks absolutely massive as a human being on the field and is dangerous at any time that he has the ball in his hands. And so, to your point, as we were talking off the air just a minute ago, I think that Arkansas is going to be okay too. What I wrote down when I was rewatching today is that they do have the pieces in place. My biggest question leading into the season was, do they have the pieces around Taylon Green to kind of make this thing move? And they do. I think they have enough. They don't have elite pieces, but they have enough. And so both teams looked really good. My question for you, Craig, as I'll kick it back is, did Austin Simmons just get Wally pipped?
You know what? I can see Lane. I can see Lane playing both of them, and I think he's going to go with the hot hand. I think if Austin Simmons can come back and he can play and do well, fantastic. But here's the deal: he's not gonna think twice about going back to Chambliss. We saw that a couple years ago when Jackson Dart, Walker Howard came in from LSU. He was a vaunted 5-star. Well, all Jackson Dart did was come up and be a first-round pick for the New York Giants. So I think Lane's going to go with the hot hand, and I'm going to give a shout out to Lane Kiffin. We give Lane, or I shouldn't say we. A lot of people give Lane Kiffin crap, but Lane Kiffin continues to innovate. Not me. No, I'm a Lane homer, and that's fine with me. But what I think we're going to see from Ole Miss this year, I think the 11-1 may be a little bit rich, but I think this is going to be a 2021, 2022 Ole Miss team. They're going to score a lot of points. They're not going to stop anybody, and they're just going to outshoot everybody. So I think that's going to be really interesting.
Yep. Shout out to Thomas over there. He says, "Go Dogs." He's cozying up right next to you, getting ready for this breakdown as we jump in and talk about a big victory for Kirby and the boys. But before we get there, let's talk the biggest losses of the weekend. I'll start and then I'll throw it to you. First of all, on a very serious note, I want to just note condolences and prayers to the family of Brandy Mills, South Carolina superfan, and a big part of the Gamecock community who, it was announced today, has just passed away. And so we, if you're in that Gamecock world, then you know who Brandy was, and you probably saw her tweets in years past and maybe even got the blessing of interacting with her personally, was able to just have that light shine in your life. And so we want to just let her family know that she will be missed, and we're continuing to pray for them. And on the football field, I think that South Carolina falls into this category, unfortunately, for that community as well. Vanderbilt comes in, and it's kind of slow going, but bigger than the loss in the game itself. The loss of Lenora Sellers to what appears to be a concussion, and we'll wait and see how long that loss is going to be, I think is a bigger situation than the loss of the game itself. We saw with South Carolina last year when Lenora Sellers went out with an injury, he missed a game, and it was a game that they were able to get by with Robbie Ashford. But then in the game when he came back against Ole Miss, you could tell that Sellers was kind of knocking some rust off, being a little hesitant, feeling things out, and they got absolutely blitzed by Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss last year. And so next week, assuming that Lenore Sellers is not cleared and it is a concussion, and you're going to get sixth-year player Luke Doty, who the staff has ultimate faith in, and Luke's a veteran player and has the right tools, and you're going to Mizzou, and so that's going to be we're just to call it like it is. It's going to be a tough game. Then we have to ask the question the following week, when the team that you and I think would agree is the worst team in the SEC, the Kentucky Wildcats, come to Columbia, how much rust or hesitancy is Lenore Sellers in this offense going to show when if he comes back in that game from injury? So I think South Carolina overall, game, quarterback, all the things, kind of a big loser for me. What about you?
Yeah, I'm going to say for that Kentucky South Carolina game, that's going to be a classic lacrosse meme lacrosse thing that I say first 1 to 10 wins. Because if Lenore's, I think what we have seen is if Lenore's is not there, the Gamecock offense is not impressive. But speaking of impressive, was Diego Pavia and Vanderbilt. And I think, if we can say it early, I think we're both wrong. I think 6-6, 5-7 is not going to be the case this year with Vanderbilt. They are going to be a thorn in everybody's side. I think 8 to 9 wins is probably going to be more likely.
Well, they're going to be 5-0 headed. They're going to be 5-0 headed to Tuscaloosa in a few weeks because they have your alma mater, Georgia State, and then I believe MBG's Utah State Aggies in the next couple of weeks, and then they're headed to Tuscaloosa. So, going to be a nice matchup. Anyway, biggest loser for you?
Biggest loser, I think, is honestly, I know it's easy to say Florida. I think it's LSU. I know that you were high on LSU, and we've talked to our buddy Lou quite a bit, but they can't seem to get out of their own way on offense. I think you see it right after the press conference. Brian Kelly's asked about the offense, and he, in typical Brian Kelly fashion, blows up, gets all angry of how the hell can you ask that? We won the game. Well, Brian, you're no longer in Grand Rapids. You're no longer in Cincinnati. You are in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And I'm sorry, but LSU's offense is pathetic. Nuss had a chance to just put the game away, and he throws across his body to the middle of the field to get picked off. Thank God DJ Lagway throws 5 interceptions, or Brian Kelly would be having a lot more questions to answer than what the hell's wrong with the Tiger offense.
Yeah, tough look. We're going to talk about that with Joy here coming up in just a few minutes. It is 8:13, and this is SEC Sunday Night Live on the Chief Sports Network. I'll give one quick shout-out to Queen, who is in the chat box and wants me in Columbia calling plays very soon. Queen, I'm already here. I'm in Columbia. Haven't gotten the call from Shane Beamer to call any plays. We're going to be back in just a minute to talk about the Dawgs and the Vols with our friend John, and we'll be back on SEC Sunday night.
At TriFit Physical Therapy and Performance, we believe true health and peak performance start with personalized care. Whether you're an athlete recovering from injury or just chasing your next personal best, we're here to guide your journey. With expert coaching, hands-on therapy, and transparent cash-based pricing, you get the care you need without the insurance red tape. One client drove 100 miles just to see us and said it was worth every mile. Contact us at trifitperformance.com or 803-353-5619. TriFit Physical Therapy and Performance, where recovery meets results.
When playing sports, you want a coach that will fight for you. At Hewitt Diamaduros Law Firm, we've got your back. Whether it's personal injury, insurance disputes, negligence, or wrongful death, our team delivers exceptional legal services that makes meaningful difference in the lives of the individuals and families we work for. Visit hdlawsc.com. hdlawsc.com. Hewitt Diamaduros, we're on your team.
This is SEC Sunday Night, part of the Chief Sports Network.
Welcome back to SEC Sunday Night Live on the Chief Sports Network every Sunday night at 8. We are back here with our friend John Smith on the TriFit Performance guest line. I'll remind you that TriFit Physical Therapy and Performance in Lexington is your one-stop shop for your performance needs and physical therapy. Mitch is there, and he's the owner, and he is really amazing at what he does. He believes in real health and peak performance, and that start with personalized care. So if you're an athlete or you're bouncing back from injury or you're just pushing for the next personal best, TriFit literally has your back. You got expert coaching and hands-on therapy and no insurance red tape. TriFitPerformance.com to book an appointment today. All right, John, what's going on? How are you? Let's talk about what happened in Knoxville, because we have quite the scene to break down. What a game! Are we serious? Is that really what we got? Front and center, 3:30 game day. Come on now.
Yeah, week 3 right out of the gate in SEC play. The environment, the game, Tennessee having fans in the stadium in the fourth quarter. I mean, there's not much more that you could ask for from a college football game. I personally, I died twice, I think, during the game, but separate from the palpitations and the nervousness of being a fan of one of the teams playing in the game. That's what college football is about. Like that kind of game. It's like blow for blow. One team comes out, looks like they're going to run away with it. The other team fights back, and then it looks like, they've shut down everything. Georgia fights back. Looks like they shut down everything Tennessee could do. And then Tennessee comes right back, and just, again, just blow for blow. And that's what you want. If you're a college football fan, that's the kind of game that you want to, tell your kids about years from now. But, boy, it does feel good to play in that kind of game and have your team come out on top.
Can we ask you what the two palpitation moments were?
Well, one was when Gunner let the ball go on 4th and 6.
Yep.
I have been a longtime believer in Gunner Stockton. I live in Georgia. I've followed Gunner Stockton's high school career. I love this kid. And I've been a longtime believer. But when he let it go on 4th and 6, down by 8, 2.5 minutes left, game on the line, when that ball was in the air, I died once. And then the second one was when Georgia could not stop the run, when Tennessee got the ball back, and just literally ran it right down our throat. I was like, all right, cool. After a couple of those, I thought, you're trying not to get beat. You're trying not to give them the knockout blow. You're trying to, whatever. But then, after they did it 2 or 3 times in a row, I thought, oh, Lord,
how is the strip sack not one of the palpitation moments? I rewatched today. Mm-hmm. And made the
because we have faith. We don't expect the worst. We're not rooting for the chickens, Rob.
At that point in the game, if I'm a Tennessee fan, and we're gonna hear about this from Joy in just a minute. We talked earlier, and she was in the stadium and kind of made the comment about the hesitancy that Vols fans had throughout the whole process. But at that point, with 8 minutes left in the game, you're up 5, you're in plus territory, and you get the strip sack. There has to be, in my mind, I remember watching it live and then again watching back today. I literally said that could do it.
Yeah. I think the reason that it wasn't that moment for me is because I had seen what the Georgia defense had done up until that point, right? And so you're in a place where the first quarter in a couple of minutes, I mean, Tennessee is just haymakers. And then from the second, the start of the second quarter, I believe, or somewhere in the second quarter, until about, whatever it was, 10 seconds left in the third quarter when they hit that 56-yard touchdown on Daniel Harris, Tennessee had 57 yards on 20 plays, and so you're looking at it and you're like, and so, you think at that point, you do think you're like, all right, well, we got a chance here to get another stop, get back in the game. That's why, with 8 minutes left in that kind of game, when your defense has been playing like it has been up until that point, you kind of feel pretty good. But boy, Yeah, I may have died at that point too. I don't know. I really can't. You know, there's a number of times that I go back. I went back and rewatched it today, and I'm like, man, I may have blacked out in that moment. I just completely missed some of this.
You just went up and got a beverage. You were making sure you were okay. You may have had to hunker down a little bit.
I was hunkering down for sure. And I was I was under the weather. And so you know, when I was a kid, my great granddad used to give me moonshine and honey. For, you know, when I was sick, that was like his cough medicine, which my mom didn't necessarily love him giving me. But you know, I thought, hey, I don't feel well. I mean, I got whiskey in here, so I mean, this cough syrup. So that was my excuse to hunker down.
No. Listen, that's what you needed. If there was like one concern out of Georgia yesterday, you know, they won that middle eight. You know, Rob and I love to talk about the middle eight, kind of that going into halftime, coming out of halftime. It was the fact that we kept going with field goals, and that was like one of the things that, like, as I was writing the story, kind of putting it down, it was like, in this game especially, field goals are not going to work. You need touchdowns. You know, Tennessee continued to show. Chris Brazel from Tennessee had 177 yards, like six receptions. I felt like every time that Aguilar threw it up to him, he was beating a Georgia defender and then walking in the end zone. And it was like, that was one frustration point. But, you know, I thought Gunner did a really good job. He had a lot of pressure on him. There were a lot of times he had a guy in his face or at his knees, and he was still kind of continuing drives, completing those passes. So to me, that was impressive. I would like us to see finish more drives as we go forward.
Yeah, and Kirby talked about that in his press conference after the game. He said, you know, I thought the offense, I thought we had a good game plan. I thought, you know, we executed. And then he said, except for, you know, those 2 drives, he said, where I felt like we had an opportunity, you know, to really kind of put the game out of reach, and we ended up settling for field goals. And I'll tell you a little anecdote. I was lucky enough to get to go to one of the scrimmages, one of the fall scrimmages at Georgia in Sanford Stadium this summer. And Kirby, there's a time when it was 3rd and 2, and the defensive line just completely, you know, blew up the offense. They were trying to run the ball, and, you know, Kirby gets on the mic and he says, you know, I won't use all of his colorful language that he used in that moment, but he said, needed 2 yards, couldn't even get 1. And then he said, I hate kicking effing field goals on the microphone as loud as he could in Sanford Stadium. And so that's Kirby, right? Like he doesn't like kicking field goals. And so I think he absolutely would agree with your assessment, Craig.
For sure. What did we learn yesterday about these 2 teams, if anything? You know, the thing that sticks out to me, and Craig said this earlier, is that maybe these 2 teams are the top 2 teams in the SEC. Like, did Tennessee really lose yesterday? They lost the game, but is there a chance that we see, John, in your opinion, these 2 teams matching up again in Atlanta at the end of the year?
You know, I will say this. It feels like a good lean to stick your neck out and say that. But it's week 3 and there's a lot of football to be played. What I will say, what we did learn is we learned that these 2 teams do not, there's no quit in either of these teams. There's no, you know, and no matter the flow of the game, what's going wrong. I think we also learned that Tennessee, the one thing that I have seen over this, you know, the last, really since Josh Heupel has been there the last 4 years, that I felt like Georgia has just been able to dominate Tennessee until this year is the physicality of Tennessee. And I think when you look at it, you're like, man, those wide receivers are physical, tough running backs. The defense was young. They were down some guys, but they were really physical. And of course, Georgia is always going to, you know, try to have a physical identity. So I think that is a huge thing that we learned about Tennessee, at least. And I do think the SEC is still a physical league. I think if you're going to play in Atlanta, you got to be a physical football team. So I think that gives both of these teams an edge. But I would say for my money, I do think that these are the 2 best teams in the SEC right now. But you know, you got Alabama coming up, so we'll see. What do you
have to worry about with Alabama?
It's on the tee for you.
When
Exactly.
You know, Courtney, it'll be fine. It'll be great. You know, as long as, listen, we can have a blackout for Sanford, but can we just make sure we don't wear black uniforms? Because I don't want that again.
Please listen. I will say this about Tennessee before we move on the conversation. Last year, Georgia, had that game at Alabama. Speaking of Alabama, at Tuscaloosa, where it just got dominated, but then found the will to not quit, to keep playing, to come back, to fight all the way back and come within, a Hail Mary of a play, a prayer and Jordan Hare type play from Alabama. And then, Carson Beck, you still had an opportunity, even after that Ryan Williams, kind of Hail Mary type play, you still had an opportunity to win the game. And Carson Beck, throws the pick on the goal line there at the end. But I think that was a moment for Kirby and for the staff last year to have so many teachable moments for that team, and any team like Tennessee is where I'm going with this. A loss is only bad if it turns into more losses. But if you take that loss and you learn from it, and you figured out like, okay, yeah, this is who we are. This is where we need to get better. This is the identity we've established. Like we can compete with, the upper echelon of the SEC. I do think, Tennessee learned that for that football team yesterday, and that's so big in this league. And is so big, I think going down the line. So, for my money, I do think these two teams will likely be in Atlanta for that reason. I think it's just like, Georgia learned a lot about their weaknesses on defense and where they need to improve yesterday. Tennessee learned a lot about themselves and where they need to get better. And I think, you hate that somebody had to lose that kind of game. I know that's cliche, but you really do if you're a fan of football. But I don't think, to your point, Rob, that you are saying earlier, I don't think you can really say either team really lost. I mean, it's an L in the win-loss column, but like at the end of the day, everything is definitely in front of Tennessee going forward.
I wrote this down as well, that going back and rewatching, to your point about Tennessee's physicality, as many points were scored in this game, and I said this with Joy too, so this is going to get redundant, but the defense has actually impressed me at multiple points in the game where there was loud pad popping and ball carriers being met at and behind the line of scrimmage. The level of hitting that's happening in this game is what we identify with the SEC, traditionally speaking. And that just doesn't necessarily line up with maybe what the score tells us at the end. But man, like if we just look at it, it was Tennessee is bringing the wood, and like you said, down a couple guys, they get those corners back. It's gonna be really interesting to see what type of defense they're putting on the field.
Yeah, I think what you're seeing, right, is this slobber knocking football, right? Like in the 90s, that's what we called it. It's slobber knocking football, but you're coupling that with very, very good athletes on the field. And so when that's the case, when you're running pressure, when you're really, kind of trying to tee off on somebody, there are times where you're gonna get beat. There are times where that's gonna turn into an explosive play. And I think that's what we're seeing in the SEC at least. But I will say if you look across the league, a lot of folks have said, is the SEC down because of the scoreboard, because of the scores that have been scored? And I don't think so. I think there's a lot more parity, and I think there's also teams like Georgia and Tennessee that can win in a number of ways. They can win a 20-17 game, or they can win a 41-38 game, a 44-41 game. So I think that's what we're learning about this league.
Well, and I think it's interesting, Ross Dellinger keeps putting out, what are the conference versus conference records? The SEC is 10-2 right now. Everybody else is 500 or worse. Yet, this is where you go eye test versus data. The data says one thing, but my gut and the eye test says, well, there's no dominant SEC team. We're used to Georgia dominating. We're used to Alabama dominating. Oh, that makes me still makes my skin crawl. But like, there is no dominant team. Georgia has some flaws. Tennessee was that first team they played. Alabama has looked good at home against our sisters of the poor, but they've looked a little rough on the road. LSU is still trying to find themselves an offense. Oklahoma has a killer defense, but I still think we have questions about John Mateer. Is he really the guy? And I think is the biggest question. And I think when you have that parity, it hurts the conversation. You look at the AP poll, you've got Ohio State and Penn State 1-2. I still don't know what the hell anyone's seeing in James Franklin. Ohio State, they get their flowers. They beat Arch in Texas. But, it's that, who is that next tier? Where does Oregon fit in there? Where does Florida State fit in there? And I think that becomes a narrative with the SEC is, yes, it's been impressive. The data shows it. But because we don't have somebody that's really, planting the flag, maybe Georgia can do that in 2 weeks to really kind of set that narrative for us.
Yeah, and I think Kirby said in his post-game press conference, he spoke about that too, Craig, where he said, I told our team it would not surprise me if this is a one-score game late in the fourth quarter. He said, these are the kind of games you're going to play in this league week in and week out. And, I think he's speaking to parity, but I also think, I think part of the reason that you're not seeing, and Kirby said this in a press conference, I think it was a couple weeks ago, but part of the reason that you're not seeing, a team run away with it is Kirby said, he said this actually in an interview with Josh Pate this summer, is where I saw this, but he said, hey, it used to be your first year guys were just trying to survive. Your second year guys were trying to figure out who they were. Your team was led by your third and fourth year guys. He said, now I consider a second year guy an experienced guy. And so that's what we're seeing. It's less, to me about anything to do in terms of like coaching or whatever. You still have elite teams at that, at the ones. It's when you get into the twos and the threes and a coach like Kirby Smart, who's, was used to, and Nick Saban the same way. And when Kirby was at Alabama, you used to running 3 and 4 deep of guys that are third year guys or even some cases fourth year guys, guys with experience that know how to play winning football. And that's why I think we don't see a team that you look at and you say that team is the dominant team. I think it is like Georgia's been dealing with. We saw it where we start for game one, we started the true freshman at right guard, and then he gets hurt, and then all of a sudden we're playing another true freshman over there. It's like you're playing a second year guy at tackle, and it's like, that's I think more to do with it than anything related to coaching or anything like that.
John, before we get you out of here, I want to give you a chance to just let us know how we can check out Speakeasy Sports and what's going on with you guys over there. There are a couple teams we didn't mention here. Obviously, Craig is not going to give any attention to Texas A&M, but a big win for them against Notre Dame. First 0-2 team, it's still ranked in the poll since like the early 1900s. Notre Dame hangs on. I know this is an SEC show, but we've got some interesting things going on over there. I know that you guys are going to give a good look at what's going on in the world of sports anyway. So tell us where and how we can check out Speakeasy.
Yeah, you can check out Speakeasy Sports. You can go to speakeasysports.com. You can subscribe to newsletter. We're on YouTube as well at Speakeasy Sports, Instagram, Twitter, the normal places. If you're a Georgia fan, you can join the Dawgs Social Club. So we have our own site and community where we do live game day threads. We had people were posting about they were pulling out the high proof bourbon during the game because they needed something a little stronger. It was a good time in there. But yeah, that's where you can check us out. And I'll say this, I will say this. I am a firm believer, and I know why we do it. I know it's, I know it's tradition and it's TV ratings and all these things. We should not, the first poll of the year should come out October the 1st. The first poll of college football should come out after a full month. We have had a full month to assess who teams really are, because I think Clemson is another one. Dude, it's like what's Dabo doing at Clemson, right? But these are teams that they show up and all of a sudden it's like, oh, they're a top 10 team. And the problem, I'll come on your show and we'll talk about it some other time. The problem is College Football Playoff Committee, if you go back and look historically, their first college football playoff rankings they release every year, is pretty close to the AP poll. And I know they say, you know, they don't use, I know they say they use their own internet, but I think those polls have a ton of influence on where teams stack up and where eventually they end up. And so Notre Dame, man, win a game and then you can get back in. I don't understand how, you know, he's like, yeah, I don't understand how you drop Alabama so far for losing to Florida State. And then Notre Dame, it's like they lost to Miami and they actually moved up a spot. So I just don't get Notre Dame.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks a lot for the Georgia conversation, but we appreciate your knowledge kind of all around, and we want to make sure everybody is tuned in. If you want to follow John Smith, you can go to @JohnTweetSports and also follow Speakeasy Sports as well. John, thanks a lot for coming on.
And if you're not following these guys, like, subscribe, like, follow these guys. They do a great job. I do. I'm a fan of SEC Sunday Night. Glad to be on here with y'all.
We certainly appreciate it. We'll definitely have you back as we get into more Georgia talk in the rest of the season and college football playoff. John says Georgia fans are pulling out the high proof bourbon. Our friend Craig Godwin in the chat over there says there's not enough bourbon in the world. Take care of Gamecock fans. And so on that note, this is SEC Sunday Night on the Chief Sports Network, and we'll be back with our campus tour in Dailey Joy right after the break.
When playing sports, you want a coach that will fight for you. At Hewitt Diamaduros Law Firm, we've got your back. Whether it's personal injury, insurance disputes, negligence, or wrongful death, our team delivers exceptional legal services that makes meaningful difference in the lives of the individuals and families we work for. Visit hdlawsc.com. hdlawsc.com. Hewitt Diamaduros, we're on your team.
Oh, man. The building is on fire.
Emergencies and accidents happen. When you're in the middle of a fire or water event, all you want is for things to return to normal as soon as possible. Resto Pros of the Midlands is with you, guiding you through the process and working with you to get your home or office back in working order. They'll answer your questions, discuss procedures, and can act as your advocate when it comes to processing your insurance claim. Resto Pros Midlands SC.com. Open 24/7 when you need them. Quality that is guaranteed.
At TriFit Physical Therapy and Performance, we believe true health and peak performance start with personalized care. Whether you're an athlete recovering from injury or just chasing your next personal best, we're here to guide your journey. With expert coaching, hands-on therapy, and transparent cash-based pricing, you get the care you need without the insurance red tape. One client drove 100 miles just to see us and said it was worth every mile. Contact us at trifitperformance.com or 803-353-5619. TriFit Physical Therapy and Performance, where recovery meets results.
Yo, what's up?
Baby, let's go!
All right, welcome back to SEC Sunday Night live on the Chief Sports Network. We have Dailey Joy with us as always. Joy, welcome in. I like your hat. However, we know that this week you were not on the Bayou. You were in Knoxville, and so we have a few things to cover, a few things to talk about on the SEC Pretty Campus Tour this week. Joy was, like I said, at the Tennessee-Georgia game. Obviously, game of the week. I mean, it got a lot of feature. College Game Day is there, but it lived up to the hype, Joy. So talk to us a little bit, first of all, about what's leading up to, and then your experience in Neyland across the entirety of the game.
Yeah, no doubt. Exactly what I anticipated from Tennessee. I had been to a Tennessee game before, but they were playing UT Martin, and I wanted to give Tennessee the opportunity to like really show me what their game day experience was like, and what better opponent to do that with than Georgia. Obviously got out there super early. We were tailgating with a ton of Tennessee fans. I will say that the banter back and forth between Georgia and Tennessee fans was insanely respectful. Obviously, being an LSU fan, I deal with Tennessee baseball fans pretty frequently, and they are anything but nice to us. It was the complete opposite, and I don't know if it's because there's just so much respect there. At the end of the day, I think Tennessee fans kind of feel like Georgia does own them a little bit at this point in time. And so, yeah, super respectful, but like big time game day environment, just what you would anticipate in the SEC. We got in there early, did all of the pregame stuff. Obviously, a sold out crowd. It was loud, monstrous loud. I've been to a good bit of SEC stadiums, and it's probably top two, in my humble opinion. Haven't been to all of them yet. We'll see at the end of the year. But yeah, it was absolutely an insane environment. Exactly what you would expect from Tennessee. The only thing that you could feel in the air was the tension. Even as Tennessee would score and got up quickly and was on top of Georgia, and it looked like everything was going Tennessee's way, their fans, at least the ones around me, all were still very aware of the fact that they were playing Georgia and that at any given moment that could flip. And obviously, as we saw, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, I mean, just for clarity, top two loud environments, I'm assuming Death Valley is number one for you. So we'll just chalk that one up without really getting into that question. So the game obviously looks like it's going to go Tennessee's way at multiple points, but we know that they've started fast against Georgia in years past. And as things go, it got more and more competitive. Talk to me a little bit about from the missed kick at the end of regulation through the end of overtime. What was the vibe in the stadium and then kind of leaving and just around Knoxville as you're walking to your tailgate or walking to your car? What are people saying, and how could you feel the air actually come out?
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. I think as soon as he missed the field goal, I think Tennessee fans knew it was over. I think that they kind of felt like that was their opportunity, which if you have been a college football fan for a long enough time, you've experienced that, you know what that's like. And so I think they kind of felt like they had their opportunity and then they squandered their opportunity. And so going into overtime, there wasn't a lot of confidence that they were going to take care of what needed to be taken care of. There was the idea that it was Georgia, and Georgia just has their number. And the Tennessee fans around me, all going into overtime, were not confident. And walking out, it was a frustration that, as an LSU fan, I'm very familiar with. It's having that rival that you just can't beat, which for us has always been Alabama. And there's just this frustration level of knowing that you have all of the pieces, but can just never get it done. And you know, Tennessee fans are asking, you know, what's it going to take? Like, does Kirby have to retire before we beat them? It kind of felt like this year, like as you were watching that game unfold, that Heupel really had the pieces. And even throughout the game, I'm sitting here going like, man, Nico really was just like so much of Tennessee's problem. But you get to the end of the game and Tennessee has struggled to finish games against Georgia year in and year out. And it was just a case of that yet again.
Yeah, it's I think he actually does have the pieces. And that's the frustrating thing. I think if you're a Tennessee fan, we can look at it from the outside perspective and say you were there. Like, you had all the opportunities in the world to make this happen. It wasn't that you were just outmatched. And in a game, I wrote this note down and rewatching, in a game where there's so many points being scored, I was still impressed by flashes of defense, especially on Tennessee's side. There were multiple times when they came up and met ball carriers at or behind the line of scrimmage. And I felt like, wow, the pads are really popping. They're bringing something extra that I think sets them apart moving forward through the rest of the season. And there just may be a chance that we see these two teams match up again as we look at how the season continues to unfold. You talk about having pieces and questioning whether or not they're there. I think that Brian Kelly definitely has the pieces at LSU to get it done. And I've obviously said on multiple occasions that I picked them to win the SEC. Just last week on our flagship program here on the Chief Sports Network, Inside the Gamecocks, I was on Wednesday with JB, and we talked a little bit about who the best teams are in the SEC. And I said point blank, I think it's LSU. I'm definitely buying that. And I think that obviously all the pieces are in place for not only the defense to rise to the occasion, which has been the Achilles heel, but for this offense to even take a step further in being really dynamic and putting a lot of points up. 13 points offensively for LSU against Florida on Saturday night. Joy, what's going on? What's going on in Baton Rouge, and what do they need to do to get the offense kind of going?
I think what's going on in Baton Rouge is you're seeing the case of a quarterback last year who all he heard all offseason was he needed to play smarter, wiser football. And you have a second-year offensive coordinator who has fully taken the reins, and he is trying to put his quarterback in the best position to win. And so I think the two combinations of a quarterback that's probably playing a little bit more, I don't want to say nervous because I don't think that's the word. I don't think Garrett Nussmeier is nervous. I think he is significantly more cautious. And then you have an offensive coordinator who is play calling a very cautious offense. And those two combinations are not exactly conducive to the high-powered offense that you were anticipating seeing from LSU. I have never liked Joe Sloan. I didn't like him last year. That continues to be the case. I do not like his play calling. I don't think it's conducive to any kind of offensive success for LSU. And at the same time, I think Garrett Nussmeier is trying so hard to not make mistakes that the looseness that you were used to seeing him playing with last year is not there. It's not a talent issue. You just said it. Like, the pieces are there on both sides of the ball, in every position, I think, except offensive coordinator. And that is really starting to frustrate me. I think also, if you're an LSU fan, I think part of the reason Brian Kelly got so frustrated last night is there is a part of us that all remember that towards the end of the year last year, when the offensive play calling started to get a little bit questionable, Brian Kelly stepped in. And at that point, we all felt like it was too little too late. And we're sitting here now going, okay, I understand that we're 3-0. The sky is not falling. Like, we're fine. But there is this idea in all of our minds is, are you going to do the too little too late thing again? Are you going to wait and let Joe Sloan learn? At some point, like Brian Kelly has said it himself, like, there are expectations that our university has that have to be met. And if you don't meet them this year with this team, things are going to get very interesting in Baton Rouge. So I think he's going to have to step in, and maybe, I don't know if it's take some of the pressure off Joe Sloan. I don't know if it's help play clause. I don't know if it's have the final say in what our offensive is doing. But Brian Kelly is ultimately the guy that has to put Garrett Nussmeier in the best position to win. And I don't think he's doing that right now.
Okay, so if we look across the league, I have a lot of questions about how the top is really going to shake out. Again, like I said before, I think that we could see Tennessee and Georgia match up again. I think clearly they've kind of put on display that they're two of the top dogs. I continue to believe in LSU despite what we've seen with the offense sputtering. My question for you, Joy, as we get out of here is, if we have to pick a fourth team that's in the running for the SEC, who do you like better, Oklahoma or Alabama?
Oof, that's tough. I'm probably going to go Oklahoma. And that's not to say that at the end of this year, when this all shakes out, Alabama couldn't still be up there. I do think Alabama has the talent to be up there. I've just been more impressed so far with Oklahoma's consistency across the board. I think they've been consistent. They have showed up in the moments that they needed to show up in. We can say all we want to that week one for Alabama was a fluke against Florida State. And who knows, maybe it was. I think we also now are starting to realize, like, maybe Florida State was better than we all originally anticipated. But the beat down that Alabama got from Florida State was in no way, shape, or form up to par or up to standard. And so because of that, I'm going to give Oklahoma the edge right now as the number 4 team, or in one of those 4 slots. I think Oklahoma is a real contender, and has the opportunity to really prove itself at the top of the SEC this year.
Okay, big vote of confidence from Joy on Oklahoma right there. Let me just remind everybody as we get out of here, as we have Joy on with us every week, she's making her way around. She's looking at different environments, different tailgating spots, different stadiums. And if you have not yet purchased your hat, make sure that you jump on the bandwagon. I'm not sure what my camera wants to do with this, but it looks great. Celebrities are jumping on the bandwagon. Tailgaters, common alike, are on it. So it doesn't matter who you are or where you are, what you're doing. Get in there and get your hat, because we're approaching the middle of college football season.
Wild.
And we want everybody, both male and female, no matter how you align yourself in ideals and thought processes, everybody can be SEC pretty. So make sure that you go get your hats today. And Joy, take care this week. We'll see you back next week with a special tailgate spot.
Thanks, Rob. Good to be here.
All right, we are back here live on SEC Sunday night, and as I just told you a moment ago, not only are we all on the bandwagon, to be SEC pretty. But this is now confirmed on Instagram. Megan Maroney, Georgia alum and country music superstar, is also SEC pretty and posted the hat on her Instagram as well. So we'll give a quick shout out to Joy as well. She was beaming, as I said. Celebs are jumping on board because she already knew what was happening, and we want to shout out Megan Maroney as well. Megan, come on the show anytime you want. We'll be glad to have you in. We can talk about your life in Tennessee. We can talk about your days in Athens, whatever it is that you want to talk about. We're here to do it. And now, ladies and gents, we have our favorite segment. It just means more, Genius. And Craig has something important to say.
Yes. Rob, if this whole YouTube thing doesn't work out for you, I think that last segment shows you have a face for radio.
Oh my goodness. Like, I'm really not sure what happened. Not to talk about technical difficulties.
I think it enhanced the segment, I believe.
Not to talk about technical difficulties or anything like that, but yeah, not really sure why I cut my video for that one, but if everybody
had a
wanted
rough
to
week for the Gamecocks.
if everybody wanted to watch Joy instead of me anyway, so that worked out.
Yep. Casey, I have a question for you now that I've asked young Robert a question.
Hi,
Yes,
hi,
please.
fellas.
Please.
Hi, buddy.
Get it off of me,
Welcome.
please.
So, you attended a fall wedding yesterday.
I did.
We were texting each other.
We were.
My goodness. Were you streaming the game so you could still watch it even though you were attending a wedding?
It was late. The Clemson game was at noon, and the wedding was a little later, so I was able to watch every bit of it. But the
Did it ruin your fan experience?
What's that?
Did it ruin your fan experience because you had to watch it on your phone versus watching it on your TV or live?
I'll be honest, Craig. I had about 15 beers in the first half, so my watching experience was just fine.
Your fan experience was just fine. So it just proves that in 2025, sometimes fall weddings, UMass, baby.
It's my new squad. Jumping on board. They lost to Bryant.
Maybe for lacrosse, even though our guy retired, but that's okay. But no, but I think here's the big thing. We're all dads here. We have to sometimes attend sports and birthday parties. Sometimes we have to attend weddings. Thank God for streaming. Think about if it was 15, 20 years ago. We'd have to miss the game. You could have missed Brent Key and Georgia Tech pulling off that amazing fire drill to end the game.
I'm still in favor of no fall weddings. I didn't have
a choice in the matter. It's my wife's family, and there was obviously only one other real true college football fan, and it was the brother of the bride, who is the family that I am in by marriage. And when the Notre Dame game was on, he disappeared. There was no TVs at this venue. It was a beautiful venue in northwestern Virginia, and he had phones going, and I was getting a cookie at one point during the dessert section. He walks over to me, and he's like, 24-14, can't talk, gotta go back. Good to see you. And like walked away. So it was awesome. It was a good fan experience for me, I think.
I didn't know you were related to 5'0".
No. He's the only, literally Mark Wade is his name. He's the only Notre Dame fan I actually like.
Oh, okay. That's fair.
There you go. Craig, also, we can sort of appreciate your background. Let us know in the chat box.
I don't know what you're talking about.
If you're in the chat box, I know that there's a ton of Gamecock flavor over there. Shout out to our friends.
It's not Gunner anymore, is it?
Shout out to our friends in the chat box. If you have thoughts on Craig's background, please feel free to.
I've enjoyed being on Sheesh.
Chime in.
I guess, maybe I poked too much. Hey,
Michael, I did not melt.
You're probably taking my spot.
Misery loves company.
All right, Casey, I've got some that you've seen and some that you haven't seen. So just play along. We'll start with the Dawgs, since that's where we were before.
Yeah.
Take it away.
So our friend God Turley 3 says loss is squarely on Kirby. Point fingers wherever you want. This team is poorly coached and has been for over a year, and he hasn't made a single change. But I have a question for you, Rob. I know I was at the fall wedding, but didn't Georgia win?
Yeah, they did. I think this tweet was maybe this post
a little
on the board was a little premature. A little premature action.
It's probably before Gunner made the nice 4th and 8 call. And I'm going to be honest. I was texting with Rob, as I was doing the write up. I had the headline that Tennessee finally ends the streak at 8 and hits the field goal. And yeah,
He sent me
kickers,
2 different headlines.
I don't know if you noticed all the upvotes though too. There was 12 when MBG grabbed this post. So 3 plus the 9 others. There was 12 when he grabbed it. So
yeah, and I'm sure he grabbed it early, as he does. So
speaking of which, can any of you guys help me on Reddit? I keep trying to post on Georgia's Reddit page, and all of my stuff either gets nothing,
it's funny,
or
Craig.
gets taken down. I don't understand it.
You get tons of traction on the other Reddit pages, but for some reason the Dogs are not your fan. We're reaching
LSU
out,
in Texas,
We're reaching out to a friend of SEC Pretty, Megan Maroney, right now to see if she can get us some connections with the Georgia fan base, see if that'll help you out. Maybe we can just forgo Reddit altogether.
Hey, I'm trying. Okay, I'm trying to help grow our brand.
Hey, look, I get it. So here's my question about Georgia and Tennessee specifically.
Yep.
The ball that Gunnar Stockton throws to London Humphreys.
Yep.
Is this an indicator that Gunnar is going to be not just runner Stockton? Is that because that ball is just freaking sane. And I get it, right? Like we give credit where credit is due, and he's thrown the ball well, but it's been more of, we talked about at the beginning of the year that maybe, just maybe, Nate Frazier is one of the leading rushers in the SEC. And I think what happened, honestly, is that we underestimated the amount that Bobo was just going to run Gunnar Stockton. I think it's impossible for Frazier to be in those top backs because Stockton is taking the carries, and rightfully so. And so we get all this attention, and runner Stockton, it becomes a thing. But man, what a freaking ball. Am I right?
Yeah,
23 of 31. 23 of 31, 304 yards. By the way, if Beck would have thrown the ball, it would have probably landed either 5 yards out of bounds or went right through the receiver's hands, because that's all he was good for.
All right. On to the next.
Wow, no comment on that one.
Gets a sip of the water, and here we go.
All right, we got a Florida fan. I think they're a little under the weather here too after 2 straight losses. Is it only 2 straight losses? I think so.
For now,
this person, Skendall, S. Kendall, probably. It's probably S. Kendall 08 because
I like Skendall better.
Skendall 08 because 07, 06, and 05 were taken. Anyone else think Lagway is purposefully trying to throw into triple coverage just to prove how bad our offense is? Instead of just running or checking down, it's like he's purposefully choosing to throw into triple coverage to make a point that our offense is being read like a book on any pass past the line of scrimmage. There's a lot of misspellings here. So
you did a great job. That's why I call you.
Somebody call Kate. Can we tag Kate really quick?
Yeah, you do it. You've got the Twitter.
That's true. I mean, my goodness.
5 interceptions.
So do you think, do you think Lagway is actively thinking about, hey, I see my guy streaking across the middle with both safeties and a DB and a linebacker underneath. Let's throw it there instead of checking down.
What do you guys think? I'm going to go with, how about no? That is not what he's doing. That's not what he's doing. I don't
know. I think Skendall 08
maybe he's too busy
disagrees.
counting his dollars rather than watching film. I don't know. Maybe.
I kind of agree with Skendall.
I don't know.
Even if you don't agree with the spelling.
Yeah, I mean, there's some conspiracies out there.
How many weeks in a row can we do Florida Post?
I know. I've been searching for somebody else, and I, because of the Clemson thing yesterday, I didn't look in Carolina stuff, so I was taking it easy on my good friend Rob.
I found one. Rob vetoed me. I had a good one, but Rob vetoed that one because then we both would have been fired. Sorry,
no,
JB.
I don't have
Sorry,
a problem.
JC.
We just had enough. We had enough. You already sent me 3, so I feel like that was enough with our banter and our back and forth and whatnot.
But
I do have a question. Excited about, Craig, to be honest with you, is who's going to be the meltdown this week on the MBG show? I'm truly not sure.
Well,
I have a good
idea. We have a pretty good candidate next, but before we go to that next candidate, I do have a question about Florida. Why is game day going to Miami? And let's be honest. You have Napier versus Cristobal. It seems, and I will stress, seems like Miami should throttle Florida with what they did to USF. But I also know
Transitive
Mario
property.
sometimes is going to Cristobal. So, like, I'm so curious, but, like, is that really the best game day? Is that the best game? Why aren't you in Norman for Auburn and Oklahoma? I thought the ESPN had SEC bias. Where is the SEC bias, ESPN?
Somebody said they should be in Salt Lake City. I don't know what that game is, but
Texas Tech and Utah.
Utah, okay.
Not a bad one. You know, you said earlier, Craig, we still have reservations about John Mateer. I don't know that I do. I think if I'm picking my I was wrong moment of the week, that's it. My reservations and hesitations about John Mateer in the offseason, I think were a little unfounded, and I should have had a little more faith.
I think we got to pump the brakes a little bit on Oklahoma only because
I'm pumping them slightly.
Who's their running back?
Slightly. Well, it should be Jaden Ott, but he's been. But we don't know. We talked to the Sooner Smiths last week, and they told us that, you know, he was a little banged up, and we weren't sure. And could we get him going?
Right now, it's John Mateer.
Absolutely, and at some point, he's going to get knocked out.
Don't jinx him. So here's my biggest question.
That's a fact.
Into that game. I get it. I understand. But here's my biggest question going into Norman next week. I think Oklahoma showed against Michigan that their run defense is legit. Their run fits are on point. What is going to happen when Brother Hugh cannot run Jackson Arnold and he's going to be forced to throw? I think that's what we're going to see. That's going to be the most interesting thing for me to see. Can Arnold, you know, they've got two of the top receivers in the game, but can Arnold actually hit them? I think that's going to be the most interesting part.
Yeah, Michael makes a good point. If South Carolina has an opposite result yesterday against Vanderbilt, you could have made the argument for game day in Columbia, Missouri as well, with a ranked matchup there. Missouri continuing to look like they're kind of quietly climbing the polls. Not a great schedule, like we said before, but
yeah. Brett Sarver, guest picker?
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely who they would call.
That'd be fun.
All right, Casey, I hope you brought your readers because here's the meltdown, and Craig sent us a few
who picked
here.
Who picked this thing? Who picked that? Do not rip on my boy.
So, it's funny that you sent it to me.
I did.
We had Texas was down 14-3 at halftime, so we got four of these from the University of Texas, Inside Texas message board, the On3 site. We have Drew Align 33. Does Casey Thompson have any eligibility left? Which I love that one. C Chorn 96 said Arch equals Garrett Gilbert. I mean, these four are literally gold. Toad Vine says benches ... And then Duke of Orange says, I couldn't be less interested, but I was an English teacher. Couldn't be less is a double negative, so it could be less. Anyway, I couldn't be less interested in this offense. Sark, the OC, is stealing money, man.
I can't believe who would pick these boards.
Who won that game?
Who would rip on Sark?
Texas won, but it did look a little. Craig,
my buddy was 10 straight incompletions.
Look, Craig, seriously, you've said it time and time again. Look at this full meltdown. First of all, everybody get a great look at it, because before I pull Craig back up into the big view, because I need everybody to be able to hear him say these things. Something's wrong with his arm, right? That's got to be it. It looks terrible.
Sark said it's fine. Sark said it is
terrible,
absolutely
Craig.
fine. Why don't you? He does not look good at all, and I pity to think what is going to happen at the Texas State Fair against Oklahoma's defense and Arch not being able to hit the broad side of the barn. I don't think he could hit Big Tex at this point. I may have been misquoted. I will not say wrong.
Say it.
But Arch, I was wrong. Arch is a bit of a bust this year.
Get in line.
Hey, look, it's week 3. It's just week 3.
I think he gets his Warby Parkers on, he'll be fine. Can you imagine him going Rodrigo Blankenship, having his sexy specs on? Ooh, some sexy specs.
Tell him to call the North Cellars and ask if he can borrow his rec specs.
Listen, I wore rec specs.
Cellars is going to need anything next week, so.
Did I ever tell you that I wore rec specs in middle school and high school? Yeah, I was that guy. That was cool.
We're going to start looking for
Of course
those
I did.
photos
You're a
immediately.
baller.
Mom,
All right.
can you send them for us, please?
There you have it. This has been SEC Sunday Night. We've got the boards breakdown. Casey is here with us. As always, looking forward to a great Message Board Genius podcast. What you guys got
Hang on
coming
a
up?
Hang on.
Anything
Hang on.
specific you want to give us other than the fact that we're going to have major breakdowns? Major
Yeah.
meltdowns?
Did we talk enough about Texas A&M? I feel like so I have
I was
to
going
I have to
to
actually say
I was going to ask the question and you wouldn't.
I have to say an apology. I have to apologize to Mississippi State. We spent a lot of time ripping on Mississippi State and the Cowbells on this show, and we did not mention last week about Mississippi State's win over Arizona State. So I
Huge
feel
win.
like we'd be offending our good friend David Walker if we didn't at least give a little bit of chatter to Texas A&M.
Here's what I'll say about Texas A&M, and I said this earlier, and I off the air, but I'll say it again. I still have questions about Marcel Reed as a passer, but when he throws it up, he's got Mario Craver and Casey Concepcion making plays on 50-50 balls, and Craver looks like he's just a better athlete than everybody else on the football field. He's making catches over the top. He's blazing past people over the middle of the field. And even though, Marcel Reed was 17 for 37, he still threw over 350 and leads them down the field. Yeah, it's bad. But when he found guys, he found them for big chunks of yardage, and they did a lot after the catch. So great receivers, incredible athletes. And don't forget about Terry Bussey also, who left the Dogs in the dust and went out to gig them in College Station. He had a kickoff return for a touchdown that was called back, but major athlete there as well.
Can I share my favorite quote that from Mad Men that I think about when I think about Texas A&M?
Yes,
quote Don Draper.
Yes, Don.
I don't think about you at all.
All right, there you have it, folks. Craig doesn't think about Texas A&M, and that's
we never play them. Why would I think about them? Texas,
that's where we're going to
Georgia never play.
That's where we're going to leave it tonight. Crazy week in the SEC. Georgia and Tennessee seemingly on top of things. Chambliss takes over for the Rebels. LSU sputters, but Lagway's 5 picks are really the story of the game. Shout out to John Tweet Sports, John Smith, our friend, Speakeasy Sports, for being on with us. Shout out always to Dailey Joy for the campus tour, and she was coming from Knoxville this week. Of course, a shout out to our great friend Casey with the Message Board Genius podcast. I never let you answer your question. We're just going to continue on like that. When I asked you what y'all had coming up, just go listen to Message Board Genius podcast. It's going to be great as always, and they're going to make you laugh over and over and over again. So make sure that you check that out and tune in for every meltdown and more. And shout out to our new friend Megan Maroney. We'll see you. We'll see you when we see you, Meg. This has been SEC Sunday Night live on the Chief Sports Network. I'm Rob Williams. He is Craig McMichael. We'll see you next time.
Go game.